This is a shift lens, and I'm honestly kind of annoyed that I didn't try one sooner. So if you're new, welcome. My name's Taylor, and I've done architectural and real estate photography over the past 10 years as a main part of my career, and this has been my go-to lens, the Canon 16-35, for pretty much all of my wide shots, all of my medium shots. Let me put this down. And honestly, this thing has been great. It's a super versatile lens, and I've used it for lots of other stuff too, for photo and video. But after trying this lens just for a couple days, it's really making me rethink what I should be using and what I should be recommending to you guys. It looks like it's breaking in half, but basically what this shift lens and what the more expensive tilt shift lenses do is they shift, and whenever you shift the lens, you know how whenever you point your camera up towards a building and your vertical lines always end up like this or like this, if you're pointing down, you can just twist it a little bit like that, and suddenly they can go from this to perfectly straight in camera, which means no editing. It's really, really cool, and being able to see that fixed while you're shooting is just something else. So Laowa sent me this lens. It's a new release to test out. This is not a sponsored video. It's not a review video. All they wanted from me was some photos of it. That's it. So this is their new 20mm lens, and they also have a 15, which is, I think, the widest shift lens on the market right now. I just thought since this is even more different than what I normally use, it'd be more fun to test out and a little bit more suited towards architectural stuff because you get a little bit of compression compared to the 15. Obviously 15 would be great for real estate especially, or if you're shooting really small interiors and need that super wide perspective. But I wanted to test this out especially because it can do some extra cool stuff, which we'll cover later in the video. So I took this lens out around town to try to find some cool buildings to shoot, get some good example footage and shots for you guys to see how cool and effective this thing is. It was a super hot and bright day, and I was running on just iced coffee, so sorry if my footage is a little bit shaky. You know how whenever you use a lens for a long time, you get used to it, you get used to where to stand to get that perfect perspective that you want. Well, with this kind of lens, it's a little bit weird, honestly. You have to go back a little bit further to add in that perspective correction too, because whenever you shift the lens, you lose a little bit of the space on it. But compared to doing that in post-production, you can at least see the exact framing, how your actual image is gonna be. So a little bit weird at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. Not only is it really fun while you're shooting, but if I had one of these over my whole career, I would have probably literally saved weeks of time editing and fixing dumb verticals on every single photo. Being able to get that in camera at least almost perfect would be awesome, to say the least. So a few other cool benefits are if you're shooting interiors, you can shoot a room with higher ceilings and get more of that in the frame. And same thing for working with low ceilings. You can tilt it down and fix that perspective upwards to where you'll get more floor in your framing. And just generally, you get more control over your composition and can include more important stuff in your photos, which is obviously a big plus because in these industries, that's the whole point. All right, so on to the cool extra feature with this one. Why I tested out the 20mm and didn't really think there's that much of a need for a 15, unless all you're shooting is really wide shots and that just works for you. So you can change this to 0, and as you see, it shifts completely sideways. So you can actually shift it and do a photo here, do a photo here, do a photo here, do a photo here, and do a photo here. And even though the lens is just shifting 11mm, you can actually get a much wider perspective and create a panorama image. So I did a few of those, and the perspective it gives you is actually really cool, because you still get some of that compression from having a narrower lens, the 20mm, and I'm not sure what the equivalent is, but it gives you a much wider, cool looking shot compared to just using a super wide image. The only downside with doing that is you're not also able to use the perspective correction. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. If anybody knows how to do that, leave a comment, but I couldn't figure it out. So after using one of these lenses for the very first time, I thought it was just awesome. I wish I had one of these lenses 10 years ago. I think it would have had a huge impact on my work, and my past self would have really appreciated it. The amount of time I've spent fixing verticals and not enjoying the editing process is just, it's too much. It's too much. If you're in this industry, you understand. So I'm definitely considering getting one now. If this brand wants to give me one, I would totally take it. I'd love to have one to use for architecture, for landscapes, for cityscapes, even for other creative stuff like video and travel stuff. I think you could probably come up with some pretty interesting stuff to do with this thing. So I will leave some links down below the video of this one and some other ones that I am looking at. If you're also interested in getting one of these lenses and adding that to your workflow, I think it'd be a pretty sweet investment if you were doing this type of work a lot. All right guys, that's about it for this video. If you're new, thanks so much for joining. If you're old, thanks so much for joining again. Super thankful for you guys, and look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.